I was laughing coming down because I wasn't quite sure I was going to get here. I was just saying I was driving at one point 120 kilometres and the motor was great, and then I couldn't see a thing. And I had to slow down as quickly as I could, but putting on the flashers and just hope there wasn't a turn. I'd be in the field, and that was it. But it reminded me a little bit, it was like the journey through AIB for the last 2 years not being funny. It was stormy. There was lots of bad news and plenty of unplanned surprises, and all of that happened, but thankfully I got here, and hopefully that's the same for AIB. I was just going to speak for a couple of minutes around AIB, what's happened, why we are where we are now. I won't spend too long in the past. I think probably you're as well educated as I am on that, and it doesn't serve any interest other than how we're going to fix it. And then I'm quite happy to take questions. So any topic, there's no topic off limits. We should try to limit it to work, obviously, but you know, I've had some other questions recently. So let's talk quickly about AIB. What is its purpose? You talk about what happened or whatever. Well, what's its purpose? It is the single largest balance sheet in the country. Without it being fixed, the country will collapse and default, and we'll all be Latin American Argentinians. So it has to succeed. What is it supposed to succeed at? It's supposed to be the primary lender, supply of lending to the economy. So that's it. It gets awfully complex. That's all we do. If we lend, and if we build a successful bank that can lend sufficiently well and in the appropriate quantum to this country and everybody in it, then everything works. If we don't do that, there's no way for it to work. The country doesn't work. So we were just talking about Richie, and Richie and I worked quite a lot together. You'd be surprised. We're not allowed to work on 80% of the pyramid, but we do work on a little bit of it, trying to figure out how we unclog the system, how we change the gears, all that sort of stuff, to get the perceptions changed or to get new initiatives in place. If he does something smart, we'll copy it unashamedly, and vice versa. Clearly, it's mostly me that's smart and he copies, but that's for those of you from Bank of Ireland in the crowd. So, so what are we doing? In the last 2 years, we started the bank with 20 billion from the state. Never mind how much damage we did, that's the repayment bill. Okay, that's the insurance bill. We had to sell 20 billion of assets, we had to sell Poland, we had to sell the US. We had 30 billion from the ECB. Now my mother living in West Cork laughs, she doesn't know what all this means, they're just loads of billions. But nonetheless, all that big numbers we have to fix. So that's all happening, and I won't take you through the detail of that, doesn't concern you in terms of your businesses. What's happening then inside AIB? We had 3 years. Year one, what needs to be done to fix AIB? Design it, implement it on a multi-year basis, and take no prisoners. That's almost the way it had to be. The second year, the one just passed, return the bank to profitability on an underlying basis. So before your bad debts, is the bank going to be profitable? And what does that mean? It means, is it going to make money, therefore it has more capital to lend? So we have to have enough money to lend, we need to make a profit. So that's how we were working on the second year. And we've delivered on that. On March the 5th, I will do the results, and I'll talk a little bit about that, but I can't say too much. The third year, the year we're in now, the objective is to turn the total profitability around. So after all bad debts, are we going to deliver a profitable bank which can pay money back to the taxpayer? How will it do that? It will do that by having a sale of the bank. And you saw Minister Noonan announced in Davos our top secret equity plan, where I was in rooms being wired for sound and all kinds of inspections on your way out of the building. And he pops up in Davos, goes, oh yeah, we'll sell it just before the elections. So my secret strategy is no longer secret. But at the end of the day, it's serious. The only way for the taxpayer to get money back is for us to sell it, and the only way we can do that is to get the bank to profitability this year. So we have a non-negotiable performance target this year, which is the total profitability will be there. What does the bank look like now in terms of achieving that? We were at 22,000 people, we're 11,300. In the last 18 months, 3,600 people left the bank. When I started 2 years ago, the business volumes were at 20% of the history for the population we had, yet the population of the bank was at 80% of the history. So you had far too many staff. That's a very sad part of what happened, but we're now about the right level for the economy. What do we have to do in terms of the board? That's all gone. Nobody from the crisis is in the board anymore. The entire executive of AIB has been replaced. The bank has been restructured, and then every single thing we do, we're trying to do a lot better. So all of that's the internal, so I won't dwell on that too long. So we're in a place now where the costs are down dramatically, revenues are up, we've paid back a lot of the ECB, and we're in a position where we are pretty confident now that we will deliver profitability fully in 2014, and that means that at the Minister's discretion, we're ready to sell from the first half of 15 onwards. So that's how you get out of the crisis, you get back to the place where you pay the taxpayer. But the real substance, as I tell my own team, is I don't care. We'll get to profitability. That's competent people should be able to do that. We'll sell it. Competent people should be able to do that. The real issue is, can you deliver on the promise to be the most effective support of this economy in terms of lending? That's number one. And two, can you deliver on arrears, fixing the arrears? So we have positive news on that, in a sense that the lending that we've done for last year is in excess of 7 billion. I think if you take the next 5 years, if we double the lending pretty much every year, we have enough capital. So can we lend into the economy the way we have to? Absolutely. Do we have enough capital? That question is often answered or asked, and the answer is we have the capital to do it. So, and this year, if we go back to profitability, we're just adding to that store of capital. So if anybody's in any doubt, and we'll talk about perceptions versus realities, AIB can lend and is lending. Lent 7 billion plus this past year. It's the highest we've ever done, and our order book is the strongest in 6 years. That's our business order book. So at the end of the day, I think if you look at AIB as an institution, I'm confident that we can lend at sufficient levels, and that the lending we have done is showing an upward trend, and that the actual replenishment of the capacity to lend is going to happen on the right schedule. So there will be no limitation in AIB's capacity to lend to the economy. What does that mean on the ground? The biggest single limitation to lending was the bank. It was risk averse. So Martin, of course, was never risk averse. He was quite happy to lend to anybody who wanted it. But in general, the people in AIB were frightened to lend. They didn't know how to lend anymore. They weren't allowed to make a decision locally. So if you're in a small business here or a big business like Celtic, I was just talking to, Celtic Linen, it's hard to get money out of AIB. And that was because all the authority was taken away from the branches, and all of the people were kind of afraid, what if they made a wrong decision, what would happen? And that's because so many people were being let go and the bank was shrinking and all of that sort of stuff. The regulators were the ones who decided that the branch manager has no authority. This is not just AIB, it's any bank. And so that's the first part we've had to battle with. And for the last 6 months, we've worked very closely with them to get to the point where we gave Martin and all the other branch managers like 25,000 to start with. I'd like it to be 200,000, but we start with what we could get away with the regulators. That is a decision Martin can make today, this afternoon. So while you're in this room, after he's had 2 glasses of wine, make sure you approach him. He can make that decision on his own. He doesn't have to talk to anybody in the bank. There's no paperwork, no governance. Well, there is for you, but there's none for the bank. None of the processes of the bank need to get involved. Head office doesn't get involved. All the way through on arrears, the same thing. So really our position now is very simple. Lots of talk, but very simple. Deliver lending locally, give the branch manager the authority locally. That's the model we're putting in place. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. What are the lending criteria? They're very different. Used to be, I'd like a loan for 50 grand. Will you have a shed or a field or a building? Grand. That doesn't work. Property lending doesn't work that way anymore. So it's cash flow based lending. So we have to be in a position where we can lend, be audited by the regulator, and we are lending on a commercial basis where your business generates cash flow, and that cash flow can afford the amount of lending. There will be occasional collateral discussions, but the bulk of the lending is there. That's true of a mortgage too. If you want a mortgage, looking at it in terms of your income, which is your cash flow, the decision is made. So we've made a decision that all of our authorities are going to move back, starting now. They did for a while ago on the 25,000. Going to move back into the field. Head office is largely being emptied of people, and they're going back out into the regions. All of our advisors as agri-sectors, any of those types of things, or small business advisors or startup advisors are being pushed out of head office, and they're working in the regions and working in the branches. So the business of AIB should be local. That's just not too complex. The customers are local, so we should be local. We have the capacity to lend. We should give the authority to the branch managers to make decisions. We've done that. And we should provide all the expertise locally. So that's what's happening on that. Think arrears, think the same thing. Arrears is very straightforward. Whoever caused it, I'm not a judge of that. I wasn't here. I'm not really fussed about that. It's really, if you're in a home or in a business, restructuring you such that you can become a functioning member of the economic system again. That's the goal. Stay in your house, stay in a house, we just work out what's best, and get back to being a self-structured, surviving a member of the economy. If you're in a business, it's affordability principles, all those things we could talk about in detail, but an awful lot of the businesses have had property debt overhangs. Let's restructure that. If there's a viable business there, take it away from that debt. We'll write off some of that. We've been open about that. And then put that business back into functioning in the economy, which means growth, which means employment. And this is not difficult. Unless we're doing that, the large cohort we have, then the economy has a huge anchor dragging it down. So we have to do that. So there are two primary activities. We could talk about lots of the components of it, but in very simple terms, do the lending in record amounts, do it locally, and give the branch managers authority. That unless that model exists, we can all talk about the difficulties we have, but we won't get the money into the hands of the people who are growing their businesses. And on arrears, get people back into the economy in some measure. Are we doing it really well? Absolutely not. We have an enormously complex journey to travel on, and we do my team doesn't meet in head office. We meet together for our monthly meetings in a branch. We will meet the staff. They will always say to us, thanks for coming down from head office. You've been absolutely crap, no help whatsoever. That, all the things we think we're rolling out, they'll tell us it doesn't work or should be improved. You get over that. Then you go to the staff meeting we have. Then for the end of the evening, we'll spend 3 or 4 hours with customers, like you, and we will not make a speech. We'll just say, you tell me what's not working, and we'll go figure out if we can fix it. So that's the idea. AIB doesn't exist without customers. Our big cultural translation is simple. If we get the lending and the arrears right, the cultural piece is the last piece we need to fix, or first, but it's the last one. And that is, AIB, we had a joke at a recent lecture. Think of a business model. You're all businessmen. So we go to, and women, we go to the local town. We find the biggest building. And we say, that's it. That's where we're going to be, all over the country. And then we say, right, what time do the people go to work? 9 o'clock? Great, we'll open at 10. And then, they'll be in at lunchtime. So we're not having that. We'll close, because then they'll be bothering us. And what time do they get off work? Around 5. We'll close at 4. If you think about it, setting up a business model designed to prevent your customer getting to you is almost like Monty Python, but it was and presumed to be a successful one. So what you will see in the culture of AIB is shifting from what's good for us or what serves us best to, as I've told the entire senior population of 2000, you're entitled to precisely nothing. Your entitlement is to a job in service of a customer. If there's a customer base and there's sufficient capacity from those customers for you to have a job and to perform your job, then you're entitled to that job. It's not the other way around. You don't, as one person told me, you joined AIB, and it happened when I was a kid. And if somebody joined AIB and got in, I think Martin sort of referred to it, the local parish priest would announce it. And it's brilliant. I used to hear that when I was a kid. And I thought, oh, maybe I could get into AIB one day. But clearly I wasn't competent enough, so I went overseas. But that sense of it's an institution there for the service of itself. You join it for life, and everything's great. It's a business like any other. As you suffer every day with satisfying your customer, so will everybody in AIB. So that's the last piece. So we will lend, we will restructure arrears, and we will transform the culture of AIB to be one that thinks customer first, and that's it. So how have we defined that in the bank? We've said it's clear. The number one consumer brand in the country. Don't laugh, you're not allowed to laugh. But the number one consumer brand in the country, for a bank of our size, providing the service it does, it should be able to achieve that. Doesn't matter what industry it is. It can't today. From where it is, it's almost unimaginable that you could go there. But we said that's our objective. With the best digital technology, which in frank terms enables you to spend less time with the bank if you don't need to spend time on ordinary transactions, and with the best customer service model that allows you have any need you want, in a discussion, any time you want, any day of the week, and that's the model we want. So we're going to try and we're going to set our goal to be very ambitious, the best consumer brand in the country, with the best technology to support that experience that you have, and with the best customer service model. And some will say that when technology comes, you lose the face. We were talking about it. You don't actually. You create more time for that face-to-face contact if we do it right. So there's a lot that has to be delivered in this bank. So I could talk about a lot of things, but what it comes to is, if I come down to Wexford and I went around all of the tables, will 75% of the people say they had a reasonable, fair discussion with the bank about borrowing and they were satisfied with the process regardless of the answer? I won't do it today. But that should be a yes. And if it isn't, we've done something wrong. So our model is prove it by all of our team is in every branch in the country every year, all the top team. We spend very little time, probably 2 days a week up in Dublin. We're out in the field. And our job is to deliver that model for the bank such that that kind of conversation sitting at a table with you is a real one and we can be successful. If you look 5 years forward, what are we going to do? If I'm still here, the Minister for Finance doesn't make any more comments about us in the press. The simple answer is you have an incredibly strong bank. It is profitable, but on a basis of generating capital such that its capacity to lend can meet any demand in the economy. Arrears are restructured sufficiently that the great majority of people in arrears, the issue has been resolved one way or the other, and they're back functioning in the economy. If that's the story where people have forgotten about arrears and it's normal to get access to credit, then we've succeeded. But that's an incredibly difficult and long journey, but hopefully we will get there. So I'm going to stop there because I realize I am trained to talk for a week at a time, so I could go on forever. And I'm sure that now the glass of wine arriving, you don't want me to do that. But if I could just say, from the perspective of the bank, it's very genuine. Turning the bank around, the most important thing we will do, everything else will work. If we turn the bank around such that every employee of ours that's in the bank knows that their job depends on how their customer sees the service they provide. If that was actually the reason for you having a job or not, you would have a very different bank. And that is the bank that we're going to promise to deliver. Okay, I'll stop there because I feel like joining it myself. I'm so excited. But no, but seriously, that is it. And we're very passionate about it. And there's an entirely new executive and board, and that is their mission in life. Deliver that bank. They don't have legacies. They weren't here. They didn't cause the problem, whatever that range of activity is. Their job is to deliver that, and we're very anxious to and hope we will be successful in that. So thank you very much, and I'm willing to have 1,000 questions if you like.